to know, do you touch the tension on your sewing machine? Better yet, do you know where your tension is located? Hold up. Do you even know what the tension on the sewing machine actually does? Because guess what? I never ever touched the tension on my sewing machine until a few months ago. Hey, my name is Jewel and welcome to the Quick Stitches podcast. So apparently you have to change the tension according to the type of fabric that you're going to be sewing. And for some wild reason, me as a sewist didn't know that, or if I did know that, I honestly never applied that rule. Never, ever applied that rule. I feel like a beginner sewist, you know? I'm not a beginner sewist, but I feel like a beginner sewist in terms of being afraid to touch certain buttons on the sewing machine. And honestly, I think the tension dial is one of them. There are other buttons on my machine I think I don't even touch as well too, because I don't exactly know what they're for. And then I'm just like, why am I touching it? Yes, I have a manual. Yes, I can go through the manual, but who wants to read a manual on a sewing machine? Not I. So the buttons just stay untouched. But a few months ago, I was working in this sewing factory and my supervisor had told me that we need to adjust the tension. Now, we're working on industrial sewing machines. So this is totally different. Like, knobs are different from the basic sewing machines and the heavy duty sewing machines. So she told me I need to adjust the tension. In the factory, we are bouncing between different weights of fabric. So we're doing heavyweight fabric one time and then we're doing lightweight fabric another time. Very confusing, very annoying. However, in order for us to have like a better quality garment, in order for us to sew properly, we need to change the tension. I had no idea where the tension was located on these industrial sewing machines, which is wild. So I really wanted to really understand what the tension does. So guess what? I got Google right here. According to Google, tension on the machine is the balance between the top needle thread and the bottom bobbin thread, controlling how tightly they interlock in the fabric to create a stitch. Say less. It's adjusted via a dial to prevent issues like puckering or looping, ensuring that stitches are balanced and secure. So basically, we are seeing on the dial, like the higher the number goes, it's actually the tighter the stitch pull is. And then like the lower the number goes, it's actually a looser pull that you're gonna have. And when you have puckering, it means that your stitch tension is like too tight. And if you have like looping or burntness under the fabric itself, it means that your stitch tension is actually too loose. So in my studio at Jewellz Closette, I also do a lot of sewing for many different persons, right? And we work with different weights of fabric. So I work with medium weight, I work with heavy weight, and I work with lightweight fabrics. I honestly am not a big fan of working with like light sheer weight fabrics, but we gotta do what we gotta do, we gotta make the money. And so because I stitch different types of fabric, I never adjust the tension. Sometimes I would have issues like puckering. I wouldn't really understand why it was puckering, but you could see that the stitch tension was too tight. You can see that the stitch is too tight, but I am like, what do I touch to fix that? I would touch the stitch length because I would assume that the shorter the stitch length is the tighter the stitch will be, which is so wrong. The stitch length had absolutely nothing to do with the tension. So when I learned about tension, I immediately started putting it into practice. My brother got married a few months ago and I had to create the bridesmaid dresses, and they bought satin. Now honestly, the satin was really thin. I would say it's like probably the wrong fabric that they had bought, but it was a cheap type of satin. And we all know as sewists, cheap satin, cheap material is gonna give the sewing machine a lot of hell and high waters just to stitch. Like, I knew that was going to happen, and I knew that one of the issues that I would have with doing that would exactly be the pulling, this tightness of this tension. But because I learned about tension on the factory floor, I was able to apply that in my sewing business, which really helped. So when I actually started sewing the bridesmaid dresses, the first dress I did, it did have some slight pulls because I didn't really understand what was going on. And then when I had learned about tension, I was able to do it over, stitch over the dress, stitch over the rest of the dresses, and you would actually see that instead of like on the seams, like you would have like pulling, when I adjusted the tension, literally nothing. Like it was just so smooth, and I became the tension final boss. Like nobody can talk to me, nobody can speak to me because I knew all about adjusting my tension. Today I adjust my tension like all the time. When I find like this is just a pulling or it's too loose, I'm always there, you know, adjusting that tension like it's a DJ. Like I'm the DJ of tension. Please don't take me on. My current sweet spot right now would be between 3 and 4. It's more closer to 3, depending on what kind of fabric I'm actually stitching. But usually it's between 3 and 4, closer to 3. The nice thing about it is that I learned this on the factory floor. Like I didn't even want to work at this sewing factory at one time, and then knowing that I can actually learn so many other skills and so many tips and tricks on the floor really made me really excited. And I did spend a few months there learning a little bit more about sewing. I would say I think if it wasn't for my supervisor actually showing me how to adjust tension, I would still be here many months later wondering why is it that my outfit is puckering, or why is it that I'm always getting like these looping or whatever. I feel like I would be still in that boat because I was kind of scared to touch the dial. So I think I would not have been still touching the dial, and we would have just not grown as a sewist. The key lesson I think that you can take away from this episode, besides the fact that you can always learn something every day at your job site, despite whatever kind of job you have, is to check your damn tension on the machine. Check your sewing tension. If you see that your stitches are puckering, if you see that your stitches are looping, just check the tension. Take it from a girl who was so scared to touch the tension. Just check the tension. It's not gonna bite you, it's not gonna break, you're not gonna break the machine. Don't worry about that. Just check it, you know.